Welcome to our deep dive, and today we're really going deep into G.K. Chesterton's Orthodoxy. We're going to be looking at a few excerpts that you picked out, and I think what's so fascinating about Chesterton is how he connects Christian Orthodoxy, particularly for you as a devout Catholic, to the modern world.
Well, and he does it in such a unique way. I think what's so refreshing about Chesterton is that he approaches faith with a sense of adventure and playfulness. And that can be really, really refreshing, especially, when we think about sort of apologetics, which can sometimes be, I don't know, a little bit dry or defensive. He really brings, I think, a really unique perspective to the conversation.
Yeah, and he starts right off the bat with a comparison that really made me stop and think. He compares those who only believe in themselves to people in asylums. And I thought, wow, that is a really bold statement. But as a Catholic, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's such a fascinating comparison. And I think what's so interesting about it is how it highlights the limits of self-belief. If your entire world revolves around just your own experiences and opinions, it becomes a very small and enclosed space. You're kind of trapped in this asylum of your own making. You're cut off from the bigger picture.
But isn't there a danger of faith also becoming a kind of comfortable, I don't know, confinement? Does Chesterton address that at all?
Oh, absolutely. And he doesn't shy away from that tension at all. He actually sees faith, particularly the Catholic faith, as expansive. It's this invitation to step outside ourselves and acknowledge something much greater. It's about humility, recognizing that we're part of this larger cosmic order created by God, and finding true fulfillment in placing our trust in something that's beyond our limited understanding.
So it's not about retreating into a safe space, but about opening ourselves up to something much grander, I guess.
Precisely. I mean, think about, your own experience as a Catholic, the emphasis on community, on service to others, on seeking truth beyond ourselves. It's all about breaking out of that self-imposed asylum and embracing a wider and more vibrant reality.
And then he goes into talking about the limitations of a purely materialistic worldview. And he uses this striking comparison to, well, the thinking of someone who's maybe not fully grounded in reality. And he argues that both materialism and that type of thinking offer what appears to be a complete explanation for the world, but they're very limited in reality. How do you see this playing out, especially as someone who lives out their faith daily in the modern world?
I think it's so relevant, especially today. When we reduce everything to just material terms, we risk losing sight of that deeper meaning, that purpose that faith provides. I mean, it's like saying, the Sistine Chapel is just a collection of chemicals on plaster. I mean, technically it's true, but it misses the point completely. And I think Chesterton is really reminding us that there's more to reality than what we can, just see and touch.
Right. And I really like how he connects this to human potential. He argues that a purely materialistic outlook actually limits our capacity for things like hope and courage and creativity, almost like it shuts down these uniquely human qualities that Catholicism actually celebrates.
Yeah, he's really highlighting how Catholicism recognizes the human person as having both a material and a spiritual dimension. We're not just biological machines, but we're souls. We're created in the image of God, and we're capable of love and creativity and this longing for something beyond just the material world. And to deny that spiritual side is really to diminish our full potential as human beings.
And then he throws in this personal anecdote about learning these foundational truths as a child from fairy tales. And it's such an unexpected, I don't know, source, I guess. But he argues that these fantastical stories, much like religious narratives, offer a really unique way of understanding reality. What do you think about that?
Well, I think what's so intriguing about that comparison is how it challenges our assumptions about what constitutes truth. Fairy tales, like religious stories, they operate on a different level of understanding. They tap into a deeper truth about reality, one that embraces the miraculous, the unexpected, the things that defy a purely rational explanation.
But isn't there a danger in that, in blurring the lines between fantasy and reality?
Well, he's not suggesting that we abandon reason. I think he's reminding us that there's more to knowledge and truth than what fits neatly into, a scientific framework. And for Catholics, I think this is reflected in the lives of the saints, the power of the sacraments, the belief in divine intervention. It's about recognizing that there are dimensions of reality that science alone just can't fully capture.
So it's about holding those two seemingly contradictory ideas in tension. the rational and the mystical, the seen and the unseen.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and I think that tension is what makes faith so challenging and so rewarding. It's about embracing the paradoxes and mysteries, recognizing that, our human minds can't fully grasp the fullness of God.
As we're talking about these fairy tales and religious narratives, it makes me think about how central stories are to the Catholic faith. The lives of the saints, the parables of Jesus. It's all about conveying these profound truths through narrative. Do you think Chesterton's tapping into that same idea here?
Absolutely. And he understood, I think, that stories have this incredible power to bypass our intellectual defenses and speak directly to our hearts. They can make these abstract concepts come alive, help us to connect emotionally with these deeper truths, and
Yeah.
even inspire us to action.
It makes me think about like stained glass windows in cathedrals,
Yeah.
or the intricate details of religious art. It's not just decoration. It's about telling a story, conveying a message.
Exactly, and that connects beautifully to his next point, which is this idea that limitations, often seen as, negative, can actually enhance joy and create space for wonder. And he uses these really surprising examples like monogamy and the rules of a game. How does that idea sit with you, especially within the context of your faith?
It's definitely countercultural, I think. We live in a world that celebrates limitless choice. But Chesterton seems to be suggesting that true freedom comes from embracing certain constraints.
He's challenging us to think about how restrictions can actually deepen our experiences. The rules of a game, while they're limiting, they're what make the game exciting and meaningful. And in a similar way, the vows of marriage, the disciplines of our faith, they create a structure that allows love and commitment to flourish.
It's like saying a blank canvas can be overwhelming,
Yeah.
but a defined frame can actually unleash creativity.
Precisely. Think about, the liturgical calendar, the rhythms of fasting and feasting. These limitations, they might seem restrictive, at first glance, but they provide this framework for deeper spiritual growth. They help us to appreciate the things that we abstain from, and they create a sense of anticipation and joy when we return to them.
It's about finding freedom within boundaries, not in spite of them.
Exactly. And that's a concept that runs through, so much of Catholic thought, the idea of discipline, of surrendering our will to God's will. It's not about, being a killjoy,
Wow.
but about aligning ourselves with a higher purpose,
Mhm.
which ultimately leads to greater freedom and fulfillment.
Chesterton then goes on to paint this really vivid image of the church as this huge and ragged and romantic rock, balancing all these seemingly contradictory virtues and ideas. It's a striking image, but how do you see it playing out in the Catholic Church today?
Well, it's such a brilliant encapsulation, I think, of the church's ability to hold together this wide range of perspectives and practices while remaining true to its core identity. I mean, think about the diversity within Catholicism, different rites, different orders, different approaches to spirituality. And yet there's this underlying unity, a shared commitment to Christ and his teachings.
But isn't there a danger in that tension? In trying to be everything to everyone?
Well, I think Chesterton recognized that tension is really at the heart of the church. It's a living tradition, not a static museum piece. It's constantly evolving, adapting to new challenges, engaging with new cultures, while remaining rooted in these unchanging truths, revealed by Christ.
It's like navigating a ship through stormy seas.
Yeah.
You need both a firm rudder and the flexibility to adjust to the waves.
And that's where dogma comes in. Chesterton argues that these clear, fixed doctrines, often criticized as rigid and outdated, are actually essential for protecting freedom and fostering genuine innovation. This might seem counterintuitive, but how do you understand this idea, especially as someone who embraces the Catholic faith?
I've wrestled with that tension myself. On the one hand, you want to uphold the teachings of the church, but on the other hand, you don't want to stifle intellectual curiosity or creativity.
Well, I think Chesterton's point is that dogma in the Catholic context provides a stable foundation for thought and action.
Right.
It's like a map, that helps us navigate the complexities of life. It prevents us from getting lost in this, sea of relativism, and it safeguards against these dangerous drifts into tyranny or chaos.
So it's not about blindly accepting everything without question, but about having this this framework within which to wrestle with those questions.
Exactly. I mean, think about the Catechism. It's a comprehensive guide to the faith, but it doesn't shut down inquiry. It encourages us to delve deeper, to explore the nuances and complexities of our beliefs. It's like saying, here are the boundaries. Now let's see how far we can push them.
I love that idea of dogma as a starting point for exploration, not an end point.
Yeah.
It speaks to that dynamic tension that Chesterton captures so well, that balance between fidelity to tradition and openness to new insights. It strikes me that this idea of dogma as a starting point for exploration really speaks to Chesterton's own approach to faith. He's not afraid to ask these tough questions, to wrestle with paradoxes, to challenge, conventional thinking.
Well, and what's so refreshing about Chesterton is that he approaches faith with both intellectual rigor and a sense of childlike wonder. He doesn't shy away from the mysteries, the things that we can't fully comprehend. In fact, he seems to revel in them.
And that brings us to one of the most central concepts in Christianity, the idea of divine revelation. How does Chesterton, with his playful yet profound approach, tackle something so foundational to the faith?
He sees revelation as this incredible act of God breaking into human history, revealing himself in ways that we could never have imagined on our own. He uses the example of the incarnation, God becoming man in the person of Jesus Christ. It's a truth that completely upends human logic, something we could never have, figured out through reason alone.
It's like God throws us a curveball, something so unexpected and radical that it forces us to re-examine everything we thought we knew.
Exactly. And for Chesterton, that's the beauty of revelation. It challenges our preconceived notions, expands our understanding of what's possible, and invites us into a deeper relationship with the divine.
But for some people, especially in today's world, the idea of accepting something on faith, of trusting in divine revelation, can be a real stumbling block. How does he address that skepticism?
He acknowledges that faith requires a certain level of surrender, of letting go of our need to control everything. But he argues that the surrender isn't, blind or irrational. It's about recognizing that there are truths that transcend our limited human understanding, truths that are revealed to us through scripture and tradition.
So it's not about abandoning reason, but about acknowledging its limits.
Precisely. We use our God-given intellect to grapple with the mysteries of faith, but we also recognize that there are things that we can't fully grasp with our, finite minds. And that's where faith comes in. It's that leap of trust, that willingness to embrace what we can't fully explain.
And this leads us to the idea of authority in matters of faith, something that often sparks debate, even resistance, especially in contemporary culture. How does Chesterton approach this concept that's often misunderstood?
He flips the script on the typical understanding of authority. He argues that true authority in the Catholic sense isn't about power or control. It's about service. It's about guiding people towards truth and freedom. Think about, a parent teaching a child to ride a bike. The parent provides support and guidance, but the ultimate goal is for the child to be able to, ride on their own.
So it's not about imposing beliefs, but about providing a framework for understanding and growth.
Exactly. The church, in its role as teacher and guide, isn't about dictating what people should believe. It's about helping them to encounter Christ, to experience his love and mercy, and to grow in holiness.
Throughout our deep dive into orthodoxy, one thing that has really struck me is Chesterton's genuine love for the church. Even when he's, being critical, there's this deep affection and respect that shines through.
Well, he saw the church as a source of both beauty and challenge. He recognized its flaws and imperfections, but he also saw its incredible power to transform lives and to bring hope and healing to the world. He was captivated by its rich symbolism, its ancient rituals, and its unwavering commitment to truth, even when that truth was unpopular or difficult to accept.
It's like he understood that the church, like any human institution, is a work in progress, always striving towards something greater.
And that striving is what makes it so compelling. Chesterton's love for the church wasn't wasn't passive or sentimental. It was a call to action, a challenge to live out our faith in concrete ways, to be Christ's, hands and feet in the world, work for justice and peace, and to build up the kingdom of God here on earth.
This has been such an enriching exploration of Chesterton's orthodoxy. I feel like I've gained a new perspective on how to approach faith
Yeah.
with both reason and wonder, with a deep commitment to truth and a willingness to embrace the unexpected.
Well, and I think Chesterton reminds us that Christianity isn't just a set of beliefs or a collection of rules. It's a way of life. It's a radical commitment to love, to service, and to a truth that is bigger than ourselves. It's a journey of adventure, of discovery, and of ongoing conversion. And it's a journey that's full of joy, of surprise, and the constant possibility of encountering the divine in the most ordinary moments.
So to leave our listener with a final thought, what would you say is the most important takeaway from Chesterton's orthodoxy, especially for someone seeking to deepen their Catholic faith?
I think Chesterton challenges us to embrace the paradoxes of faith, to wrestle with difficult questions, and to find joy in the unexpected. He reminds us that true faith isn't about blind obedience or intellectual rigidity. It's about engaging with the world in a spirit of both intellectual honesty and childlike wonder. It's about recognizing that the Christian ideal, as he so eloquently put it, has not been tried and found wanting. It has been found difficult and left untried. So the invitation, especially for those of us within the Catholic tradition, is to step out in faith, to embrace the fullness of what it means to follow Christ, and to discover the transformative power of a life lived in service to something greater than ourselves.